morning, family. It's Adai Lamar here in our 9 a.m. hour, and we have some very special guests. We're going to tackle a conversation and topic that has been on the forefront for quite some time with the LAPD when it comes to excessive force. Our community has been in an uproar at times, but there are individuals within the department that hear you, and they are working diligently to figure it all out in real time. And I'm so happy to have joined with us this morning, Sergeant Cleon Joseph. And I'm going to call you Sergeant rather than CJ today because you're coming in at a different capacity.
Sergeant.
Sergeant Cleon Joseph with the LAPD. He's the officer in charge of LAPD's Arrest and Control Unit Training Division. And he was talking to me about this new tactic that you guys are bringing in called the Safe Wrap system. And I wanted to chat. You guys know CJ, of course, he does our training for everything. And we've had these heated debates on both sides of the coin.
Some honest conversations.
Yes, some honest conversations. And you can pull that mic up to you there. Tell me first, what does the officer in charge of LAPD's Arrest and Control Unit Training, what is that? What is that a big title for?
Well, basically, I'm the subject matter expert for weaponless defense for use of force. Now, we can break that up into three tribes. We have our firearms expert in training division. We have our tactics expert. I'm the weaponless defense officer in charge.
That's hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand. And what we do is we teach and train our recruits and in-service personnel. But we also have to testify in court cases. We also have to testify in border rights where officers may have to lose their jobs for using excessive force or defend when they're doing it within policy. So they'll call me when it has a lot to do with the weaponless stuff.
And so you've had to testify, and sometimes you're not on the same side as your officers. Does that put you in a difficult situation?
Well, not really. Number one, because I'm old and I don't care. Number two, I let the facts speak for themselves. Personally, I've my expertise based on the facts of the matter have gotten a couple officers terminated and also severe days off, suspensions. But when they do their job and they're sitting there, I defend them based on the facts of the case too.
When we talk about policy, sometimes the policy in our community's eyes doesn't necessarily work. And they have, you have a lot of critics when it comes to how you actually subdue a subject. And we, of course, had the George Floyd situation, Mike Brown, all these different things where people not just were hurt, they were killed. And so when you're in that position, and a lot of that has to do with your division, you are the one that comes up with the different tactics to help make this better.
Yes.
And you sought the help of the best of the best.
Yes. We've had over the years many martial artists come into and just show we got a new technique for you. But it's coming from a place of love and not a place of growth, you know. But we've always had the experts within our curriculum for years, but we had to tap into them once again. So I went out to Gracie University, and I was with the founder, Henry Gracie. And it was like, hey, we got this new technique, CJ, I want you to show. So after we got done wrestling and grappling, after I got my butt kicked, I actually sat down and went over this technique where here I am. I've been in martial arts for 30 years. I can bench press 400 pounds. I can squat. And they held me in this position where I could breathe. I wasn't in any pain, but I couldn't move. So I had no other choice but to cooperate with what was going on because I got tired of fighting, you know. And it was called the Safe Wrap system. And I just thought it was brilliant. I know we focus on two-man takedown, but most of the time it's done from a prone position, which is cool, but it can lead to problems potentially if officers don't train and know what they're doing. Well, this one, I was face up, and it gave me a chance to comply and cooperate with the officers that had me under control. And then it became, in my mind, a team effort, where it's like, okay, tell me what you want me to do, officers, as long as I'm breathing, I'm not in pain. I'll do what I'll go into custody.
Well, we have to meet whoever it was that was holding you down and keeping you.
Well, he's sitting right here.
Henry Gracie, co-founder of Gracie University, creator of the Safe Wrap. Welcome.
Thank you.
Look, listen, tell us about Gracie University first. That is, and people, this is like the arc of the arc of.
Thank you. So my family, the Gracie family, is responsible for creating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It goes back 100 years now. It started in 1925. My father brought it to America in 1978. Wow. And then my father created the UFC in 1993. So that really put our family's jiu-jitsu on the map. Everyone started learning it. Military, law enforcement, civilians everywhere started learning Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And it's been a great ride ever since. We started working with the LAPD in 1994, soon after the UFC exploded onto the scene. And I was born in this legacy of fighting and martial arts and jiu-jitsu and all of this. And it wasn't until very recently, after so many decades of working with law enforcement, that the hospitals started reaching out. And they said, hey, we struggle to hold patients in a clinical setting in a way that is safe for the patient, but yet effective for the clinicians. This was actually UCI Health here in California. And can you help us create a method of restraint that we can use on patients, psych patients, dementia patients, even pediatric patients, that is non-injurious but highly effective? So
to keep everybody safe, because that's the goal.
And the challenge was, here's what they said: it can use no joint locks, it can use no chokeholds, it can use no strikes, and it can use no prolonged diaphragmatic compression. And in my mind, I'm thinking, it doesn't exist. That was my first thought. It doesn't exist. If we're doing jiu-jitsu, I'm going to twist you, I'm going to choke you, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to put my pressure on you. So what they're asking for doesn't exist. Rather than giving up, though, I put on my inventor hat and I said, man, let me go check this out. So I went to the lab, which is the mat where CJ always beats me up on. And we get out there and we're exploring with my colleagues at the office at Gracie University here in Torrance, California. And lo and behold, through a series of unique body configurations and grips, we were able to create a method of restraint where instead of holding the person on their stomach, we hold them on their side. And once they're on their side, their diaphragm is uncompressed. There's no joint lock. There's no chokehold. There's no strike. There's no pain. Zero pain, 100%.
But they must comply.
Well, they just can't get out. Think of a straitjacket. When you're in a straitjacket, you're not in pain, but you can't get out. So because of that control, you have to surrender because you're not going to go anywhere until you do. So it becomes more of a control versus a pain compliance. It's control compliance. And that changes everything. The hospitals lost their minds. So now we're teaching this to hospitals all across the country. And then we introduced it to law enforcement with CJ and some of the other officers that I have great relationships with, Sergeant Joseph. And I said, hey, check this out. And he listened to this. He felt it. He said, Henry, this could change everything.
Wow.
And that's when I said, man, we might have something that's way bigger than healthcare here. Because of the strict requirements healthcare imposed on us, we might have something that could really change the way that law enforcement officers interact with the public nationally.
CJ, excuse me, Sergeant Joseph.
I'm just playing.
Sergeant Joseph, when you get your critics and they come from all sorts, how do you handle that? Because you're going to show us a demonstration, but because you once told me now that Henner they were one of your guys' biggest critics when it came to excessive force.
Well, when I say biggest critic, I mean they gave us honest feedback.
Honest feedback.
And your best friends give you honest feedback. You know, they're one of these groups that just says, hey, we love you, we're going to give you this because we're going to have you teach you how to break. They were like, dude, we need this because nationwide, there are officers making poor choices, not because they're bad people. And let's be real, some of them, there's been a few where they have been, but they get tired, they get frustrated, so they go to these primal acts of force because they're tired, exhausted, and don't train. So they expose that. They have this thing called Gracie Breakdown, where they take these officer videos and they talk about how the officers could have done better. And I said, ding, 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 ding. Well, that's a friend, because I don't need people to lavish love on me. I need to get better.
To get better.
Please teach us how to get better.
Well, I tell you what, when we come back, we're going to do a demonstration of this actual move. You'll be able to check it out on our social media. I'll tell you where. And you'll be able to check it out on YouTube. It's called the Safe Wrap System. And look, I have my, you know me, CJ. I'm a little skeptical.
I know, I understand.
A little skeptical.
I understand. We've had our talks.
Yeah, we've had our talks. And we're going to take some questions from our audience, but we're also going to talk about how we go, where do we go from here with this, all right? Once we go for that. Good morning, family. It's Adai, Lamar, Radio Free, 102.3 KJLH. So much about the LAPD and their safe wrap system. Sergeant Cleon Joseph is in today, officer in charge of the LAPD's Arrest and Control Unit Training Division, along with Henner Gracie, co-founder of the Gracie University and creator of this safe wrap system. Look, they are thinking outside the box when it comes to excessive force, and I commend that. I also have, of course, my questions about it as well. Concerns.
That's a nice little pause there. I'm getting nervous.
My concerns about it.
Let's talk about it.
You know, it seems like you want to make it one fix for all. And it probably can't do that, though, right? Like, you can't, there are different situations and things happening. This can't be this one tactic that is going to work with every situation.
No, when it comes to physical self-defense, there's a plethora of techniques and ideas. We just want a base technique that officers can communicate. And I believe we don't have a strong two-man where people can actually practice and coordinate and get it right. That we just want a solid base. So I don't consider it a takeover for those that are afraid of change. It's an addition, So you've got to look at it like that. There's no perfect one thing to do, but there's a perfect A thing to do that I think I just discovered that helps officers coordinate easier. So that you got to look at it like that.
Well, how do the officers feel about it so far? I mean, I know you guys have been in and training some of them. How are they? It's hard to change a culture once they're used to doing things a certain way. Are they receptive?
Just like in human nature, you're going to have your cynics. But ones who feel it, the ones who experience it, they change their minds like that because they like, wow, this is different. Some of them just don't know that this is something they could do. Remember, we've been trained one way for so long, and we're not saying that that's wrong. But when something's new and you're exposed to it, of course, if you don't touch it, you're going to be a cynic. But as soon as we touch it, they're like, wait a minute, this is different. I didn't know I can get it done like this. I didn't know I can gain compliance better with something like this option. Heather, when do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. There's no room that I've entered into where people weren't initially skeptical 100%. Because since the beginning of law enforcement, they've been told in order to put someone in handcuffs, you have to put the person on their stomach to then expose their lumbar and put their hands behind their back. It's all they've ever learned. So for us to come in and say, hey, let's hold them on their back instead, since it's harder for them to actually escape. And then when we get them, let's not roll them to their stomach, let's roll them on their side. By rolling them on their side, we can expose their lumbar region and we can actually pass their hands behind their back without ever putting them in that prone position that has medical advantages to keeping them on their side. And it also has tactical advantages, as we'll see when we say Frat Bobo today. But the point is, once they hear this, everyone is dumbfounded at first. And it's almost like a paradigm shift. So you can imagine if you're a cop for 30 years or more, 20, 10, 15 years, and that's all you've ever heard, it's a really big pill to swallow to say, wait a minute, are you telling me that we don't have to put someone on their stomach to get them in handcuffs? So it's a massive paradigm shift. But every room that I've entered, which was full of skeptics, every single person in the room, every time we've entered, we've left the room and they've all been converts and they all go, wow, this makes so much sense. I can't believe I didn't think of this.
I love the idea of being able to restrain them without hurting them, because we know now you guys are being called out for far more situations rather than just a suspect or whatever, but mental health
huge
is big right now, and we don't want to harm those that are already in distress. And this sounds like a great way to be able to help them when they can't help themselves and not get hurt while trying to do so.
Well, exactly. When you're frustrated and you're taking on someone even who is mentally ill, it doesn't change the fact that you still have to defend yourself so you can be safe too. Well, this is an option where all parties can be safe and we can use time to our side. We don't have to rush. We got to get them on the stomach and get our hand. We can wait until they calm down. This technique...
De-escalate. Let it de-escalate. Everybody calm down.
Physical de-escalation.
Physical de-escalation. See, we talk about this on paper and on policy, but man, how could I impart what I do as an expert? Physically, in the moment, we can establish de-escalation principles. And this is what this is allowed.
And I think it gives officers a chance to calm down, too. They don't feel, like you said, that stressed of getting,
Yes, communication is better. And we can tell other officers that are coming that want to help, hey, stop right there. We don't need to dogpile. We don't need to we got this. You can help me out in a different way. That's what I observed about this. And this is going nationwide. I've watched them perform in New York, Utah, and all these agencies whose minds are blown. And I said, I got to taste it. So my touch on this I had to feel it for myself, and my mind was blown.
Well, you know who's going to get a taste of it? Bo.
We're ready for him.
Bo, are you ready? Come on over.
I got no choice.
Here we go.
So if you are listening, we're going to get a play-by-play. Henry Gracie's going to give us a play-by-play of what's happening. CJ has his folks here with him.
All the way to the wall.
And Shanice, are we live streaming too? Are we live streaming? Which one? On Instagram or on YouTube? We're live streaming on YouTube. You'll be able to see everything that's happening. Henner, he looks like he's fairly okay, but you guys didn't let him put up much of a fuss.
Well, so hold on. So we're going to show conventional means right here, you guys, so we understand where we start. This is prone restraint. Hide your hands under your belly there, Bubba, on your chest. There you go. So normal prone restraint, what CJ and Ariel would try to do is to get his hands out from under his body. Try to get the hands out, Ariel.
Because he's trying to hold on to whatever weapon he may have.
Or just tucking his hands because he doesn't want to be handcuffed. So they're trying to pull his hand out, and it's very difficult because his hands are tucked under his chest.
Yes.
So what ends up happening is the officers get frustrated, and then they start to escalate. And what does that look like on camera? We've seen it. It means, give me your hands.
Punching,
head,
face.
Yeah. So that's a very common escalation because the officers are frustrated because he is such a tight position. Now, the other aspect is, even if they're trying to put their weight on him right now, hold him down, you guys, and Bo decides, I'm getting up. Go, Bo. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Go, Bo. Go. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And he's up. So
Bo must know the camera's looking at him.
So what's interesting is that because he was on his stomach, you can stay standing now, everybody. Because he was on his stomach, he was able to push off the ground and get up. So think about
what is that called?
It's called building the house.
Building a house.
So he was able to do a push-up. Now, with safe wrap, our goal is to take the person down and not put him on his stomach. So Bo is facing the wall, CJ in front of him over there. Yep. And Ariel's going to come from behind and wrap the legs and then circle around the front. So he wraps the legs. Come on down. We'll do it slow because we're a tight space here. Go ahead, walk him down, CJ. Set. He lays him down. Look, just lays him on his back. And now they land in a position called safe wrap side control. Both of them are on his back. Now freeze right here, guys. We have Bobo on his back right now instead of on his stomach. Now, what CJ's going to do is underhook his arm right here and start driving it across his chest, walk it across, trapping his arm across over his opposite shoulder, and then he's going to grab his other wrist and pull it to his stomach. So now this is called position 1. From here, Bo can fight a little bit, he can wiggle, he can turn, try to get up. It's going to be tough. What they want to do is once he burns his energy here, they want to get him on his side. Remember, he can't do a push-up because he's not on his stomach. Once he's on his side, Ariel's going to cross his legs. Go ahead, Ariel, pull that top leg back, and we're going to cross his legs. It's a little tough to see where you're sitting, Adai, right here.
No, I see
but
it.
he's crossing the bottom tibia over the top femur. Now, hopefully the YouTube camera can see, and you want to swing around the front over there so you can see as well. So what happens here is that CJ has both arms controlled, and Ariel has a very secret leg. Look at the legs over there. That crossover on the leg. Sit up, Ariel, so that she can see how the leg is crossed. That tibia crossed over the femur. What it does is when Ariel locks that in, Bobo cannot go to his knees right now. Try to turn your hips away from us, Bobo. Roll to your knees that way. Turn. He can, for his life, roll to his knees and get up. And because he's on his side...
Are you in any pain, Bo?
No, just tired.
Now, that's a good question.
I
love this. So here's the question. Can you breathe, though? Is he laying on your diaphragm?
No, I'm fine.
Is he choking you?
Nope.
Is he joint locking you?
Nope.
There you go. Can you get up by rolling to your knees and stand up? Go.
Nope.
Go. Give us 10 seconds. 9, 8. Go, Bubba. Roll that way. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now, here's what's crazy. He's just holding him. CJ is doing nothing. Now, it's time for handcuffing. Now, check this out. When he's tired a day, we're going to handcuff now. So CJ's going to hand off the hand to Ariel right there. He's going to take that hand. CJ's going to post his leg up over here on the left. Post his leg up and sit him up and put the elbow on the ground. He's going to feed it under his body, and then he's going to sweep it right on through. Now he's got one hand behind his back. Bring the other hand around the head now. Loops the other hand around. Give it to his partner. Now he can cuff him. Now, what did you notice today? He never. You guys want him to cuff him for real?
No, we don't have to.
Okay, we don't have to. Yeah. So now he puts one cuff on. But here's what we noticed. This is the first method of handcuffing a day that we don't have to have the subject on their stomach.
Wow.
Because of the leg configuration.
Totally up here.
He's sideways. His diaphragm is never compressed throughout this process. So now we can cuff him. And once we're done, uncross his legs, sit him up right there, and knees to his chest, and they'll sit him right up. And they're able to even set him up for transport, never having to go to prone restraint and never causing injury to the subject if performed correctly in the situation.
Now, I saw all of that.
Do you want to get safe wrapped?
Absolutely not.
Thanks, Bo.
Now, Bo, you got tired really quickly there. You were out of breath there. And that's the key, is to kind of de-escalate, get them tired, let them wear themselves out, and what?
Let me say this.
Okay.
Hope is a function of progress. When a suspect is being arrested, they are emboldened to the extent that they are effective. So if a suspect like Bobo was initially on his belly and builds the house,
he feels like, I can get away.
There's so many incidents that have gone viral and people have lost their lives when the suspect is able to get up and then grab the officer's taser or then strike an officer. But what happens now is the officer has to escalate their level of force because their control was so poor on the ground. And this is the crux of the whole thing. If the control is better, progress is limited. And if his progress is limited, if you're safe wrapped and you're like, man, I can't even budge these guys, I'm done. Hope diminishes because progress wasn't possible. And when hope diminishes, verbal and physical de-escalation ensue. This is the key to the whole thing. Escalation happens when control is flawed. When control is highly effective, however, de-escalation is possible because he doesn't have hope anymore. So, Bobo, talk to us about your emotional feelings when you were safe wrapped.
I'm just tired. Like, that was just draining. Like, trying to escape from them, and it was just two of them. Like,
were you able to breathe?
Yeah, I can breathe fine.
Any issues?
Nothing hurt. It was just the only thing.
Couldn't move.
Just couldn't move. Only thing was when CJ grabbed me and put me around. Like, I was like, oh, this is different. Like, but I wasn't choking myself. It was, I just had no control over my body.
That's the key. He wasn't hurt, but he wasn't able to get out.
Yeah.
So you conclude fighting is useless because I'm under their control. And how do you think the officers feel when they have that level of control? They too calm down, right? Everyone stays in their prefrontal cortex instead of what we call the amygdala hijack, which is a function of fear, and you don't have control, so you panic, right? Any of us, when we have a situation where we lose control, what do? We panic in life and in a fight and in a use of force situation. But if everyone's under control, we don't panic. And if we don't panic, lives are saved in the process.
Okay.
And I want you to just picture you're a citizen and you're watching a use of force and you see the same old frustration, whether you agree or not, in policy or not, and you see this, two officers holding, talking, communicating with each other, maybe asking you to help calm down. I mean, that's what this technique allows, and I think that's why I appreciate it so much.
Okay. That was very good.
Okay. Oh, here it comes.
Well, if she keeps talking, we might have to safe wrap her. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
She was almost down.
That's very good. But now, in the heat of a moment, what is going to stop an officer from going back to resorting to that human nature to try to get control of it? Because in that, Bo is letting you kind of move him around. But if someone is mentally ill, or maybe they're on drugs, or maybe they're just trying to get away and they are a really dangerous suspect to everybody, how does this...
I can explain the incident. I can also explain the incidents where it's already been used in the field by officers who've only had 1 day of training in it.
One day of training?
So safe wrap, the system, in order for an agency to be certified, officers need to receive 1 8-hour training day on the system. And it's a robust system. There's many other pieces we did not discuss because it can be entered into from a seated subject, from a prone subject, from a standing subject, from the front, from the rear. There's all these options you need to learn to make sure you're complete. But after 1 training day at several of our partnered agencies who are now licensed and using the system, this has already been used on mental health patients around the country, in hospitals, in a courtroom. We had 1 case. So there's many instances where with only 1 day of training, people have gone back, used safe wrap, verbally de-escalated the situation from the physical control hold and had no issues. It's something that it's so easy to learn and it's so hard to forget because it's so impressionable. Once you learn safe wrap and you're telling yourself, God, this is so much easier and so much more effective from a control perspective than anything I've ever learned with prone restraint. I'm going to use this if I ever have a situation.
But
it's already been used.
It can't be this one fix all. It can't be that simple. It can't be. Tell me what else is it?
Don't look at it as a fix all. Do not. It's an overall technique. Let's say we do teach 1 day. You have 8 hours, and officers don't get into use of force for 6 months. If they even start, they know how to begin and they know how to start the process. If I can't completely wrap someone like Bobo, I can hold them there from that up position and wait.
So someone else comes to help you.
Henderson always says, if you just remember 10% of the start of the safe wrap, you've bought yourself time for help to come. So it's not like a one-all fix-all. And the other answer, I'm just going to be honest, okay? And I'm going to go CJ. Here it is. You got to practice. You can say anything you want. You can look at something and not do something. But if you value yourself and you wear that badge, you can talk all the crap you want about how big and bad you are. But if you don't practice, this is why all of our use of forces look the way they look. You have to practice.
Is there anything in the LAPD that requires the training and refresh training for officers so they can learn this? Currently, and I'm just being honest, it is what it is, and I'm putting it out there to you guys. I'm selling this to my public. Currently, we train every 2 years for 4 hours. Every 2 years?
For a 4-hour arrest and control perishable skills training, and that consists of handcuffing. We also have in-service courses, but that's only done like quarterly, right? So if we can increase that to that 8-hour training, and then 4 hours every other year, that would be great. If we can launch a program just like we did with all of our old techniques, launch a program where we're training the whole department. It stays in that base memory bank. So as we're training new recruits, once we funnel this in, everybody will be familiar with it. I believe with the Safe Wrap, this is one technique that if you're just familiar with it, everybody can help. You know, I saw something, I had this vision, and I've actually seen it, where if a single officer getting into a use of force and a citizen understanding the Safe Wrap, I have a vision of that where, hey, I understand that technique. Let me help the officer out. You know, that's how simplistic I believe in concept the technique
or
is.
Fire EMS. We're now
EMS,
working with
perfect.
firefighters, paramedics, healthcare professionals. In my mind, when we first invented this, my thought was what CPR is to emergency first aid, Safe Wrap is to emergency restraint. Any two people who speak the language, one person goes high, other person goes low, Safe Wrap, Safe Wrap. We immediately know, hey, CPR. We know what that means. And this is a system that all first responders, all people who interact with the, we have school systems now that are incorporating Safe Wrap for the teachers in academic settings, because if you have a child who has mental health struggles and is aggressive or suicidal or emotionally disturbed, or two kids are in a fight and you got to break them up, how do the teachers restrain someone in a way that's safe for the child? So the fact that this has the medical advantages, and we've had this medically reviewed by Dr. Gary Vilk, and we actually Safe Wrapped him, and we said, hey, talk to us, feel it, give us all your opinions. And he said, look, I'm on my side. Even when it was performed incorrectly, Dr. Vilk said, it's still more forgiving than traditional methods of 2-on-1 restraint.
Wow. Okay, so we know that you have this system, but it's not implemented just yet.
Correct.
It's an idea. It's you got it physically, but how do we get this into the LAPD where this is now across the board?
So here's what I've done, and here's where I'm asking you, the public, if you value your law enforcement, if you want to see it better, here's what you can do. You know, we had a 2-day course, March 24th and 25th, where we brought some of our experts in. We had about 17, 18 of LAPD, and they're going out to the division spreading the message, and we're piloting it. We also pilot with Henner to our command staff in South Bureau, some of the stronger areas where there are higher uses of force. And I'm continuing to pilot and demonstrate. So today, community, was our pilot. You know, I wanted you to see this and see the value in it, so you can, at your town hall meetings, at your monthly community meetings, that people, hey, we want to see this Safe Wrap. Now, right now, we've got positive feedback from our command, and it's being sent up. We're talking about the licensing and to get it green lighted, and I believe it will happen. But you are the people that we serve. So it's important that when we come up with something like this in this realm that I don't think it's been done before, that you need to see it, and you need to be a stakeholder and involved if you want to see something like that. Because I just picture your person that's suffering from mental illness, or anyone at that. You know?
So once you get it implemented,
yes,
and it doesn't happen, and let's say you get it implemented and the officer does not follow through with it, or he still goes to excess force. So what happens then?
If they use whatever they've been trained throughout the years and they're in policy, they will be in policy. But the fact is, once you introduce and that light bulb goes off when you train, they're exposed, they're going to use it if it works. That's just like anything else in society. If I get them exposed to it and we have a great 8-hour training day for all of our department members, man, that sticks in your brain. And then we funnel that into recruits. Everybody's talking the same language. Again, all they need is that if they forget everything but 10%, take the legs, take the arm, keep them face up. We're fine.
And then that becomes policy? Is that what you're saying?
It becomes an additional technique that the officers can use. You know, policy is policy. Mm-hmm. We have like 30, 40 arrested control grappling techniques that are great, right? Mm-hmm. It'll be another technique involved.
So this is added to your repertoire.
This is another tool on the tool belt. And if I could just say, touching on this idea of implicit bias in law enforcement and how agencies and officers, they do receive implicit bias training.
Yes.
And one of the key things, as the CJ will tell us, is that when it comes to implicit bias training is an officer's ability to recognize their own implicit biases, and then in the moment of use of force, trying to mitigate that bias and trying to rationalize with themselves that even though they might have a bias, right, to perform and to overcome that bias in their actions. That's hard to do when you don't have control and you're panicking. So a perceived sense of control over a physical and potentially violent encounter or a situation, controlling that situation allows you to make more rational decisions in your prefrontal cortex. So to the extent that the officer's interacting with the public and things are out of hand, they're more likely to basically perform and act in a way that leans into their biases versus leaning away from them by rationally choosing attempting to overcome that bias because of the control that they have. And SafeWrap, the idea is giving officers control of their environment, have control of the suspect, so that even if they have implicit biases, they're able to overcome those and perform with the lowest level of necessary force.
It's a very tangible piece of procedural justice, and this is something that you all want. Now we're giving it to you tangibly, just a piece. And there's more to come. We're always striving, but in this realm,
this is where we are with this.
This is where we're in.
So look, you had Bo down, and he didn't have a weapon. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have anything like that. How do you work this particular rap when that is the seriousness of the situation?
If we had more time with Bobo, we were going to simulate that.
There's two scenarios here. Two scenarios. Number one is if he presents a weapon in a standing altercation or a verbal de-escalation, he pulls a gun out, they're going to go to higher levels of force. They would not initiate SafeWrap in a weapon-bearing situation. If he has a known weapon-bearing subject, we wouldn't do that. However, during the ground control, one of the other technical limitations of prone restraint that Bobo was initially in is because his hands were under his body, if he had a knife or a gun in his waistband, he could access it because they didn't have control of his arms. Once we had Bobo on his side in SafeWrap, in position number 2 of SafeWrap, his wrists were fully controlled by CJ. So even if he had a knife in his waistband, he wouldn't be able to access it. And if he did access it, CJ could simply maintain control of the wrist to limit his range of motion and his ability to use that weapon. So not only would we not enter SafeWrap if there was a weapon present, if there is a weapon present during the altercation, the officers have so much control they can mitigate against its use in that encounter.
Is it only 2 officers? No more than 2 officers, or more people can get in on?
Great question. If everyone speaks the same language, everyone who shows up is an asset. Because let's say we have 2 female officers or 2 smaller male officers against a larger subject, right? If a third officer shows up on scene and they speak SafeWrap, right away that third officer can kick into gear and assist in the apprehension of the subject with the exact same grips. Now, if the third person doesn't speak SafeWrap, they might run in and say, get him on his stomach, put his hands behind his back, and they ruin everything because now you have conflicting strategies, which is why the work that Sergeant Joseph is doing to roll this out for the entire agency and get everyone on the same page is critical so that everyone who shows up is an asset, not a liability. But it can be done by 3, 4, or 5 people, but 2, the minimum of 2 is what is necessary to initiate SafeWrap.
But I want to make it very clear for my officers, or your life's important too. If there's a weapon that can take your life, I mean, hey, you have a right to bump it up to the next level of force. And you did say that. I just want to specify, this isn't SafeWrap only. That's not the message I want to put out there. You have a right to defend yourself, and we want you guys to go home safe. But anything other than that, should a weapon be produced from if they're prone, which I wanted to show today, it's very hard to see if the subject has a weapon. So if the suspect turns and builds a house like Bobo did, and we see the knife, it's too late. I'm already stabbed. So that's another reason, a positive reason for a SafeWrap type position.
Am I about to get beat up again?
No, you're not. Look, okay, guys. The conversation is this morning, we're talking about LAPD's new tactic, what we're trying to get implemented. It is the SafeWrap system. And if you've been listening, we've gone through a lot of different scenarios. We talked about what it is doing right now and changing a lot of people's perspective.
Culture,
the culture of it. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But then what can you do to make this a thing that sticks with our communities, things that stick, and take a few questions, because I'm not the only skeptic.
Ooh, I'm sweating already. But I'm ready. I love you.
Good morning, family. Today, Lamar, Radio Free, 102.3 KJLH. Thank you, Junior. We have in studio with us Sergeant Cleon Joseph and Henner Gracie, co-founder of Gracie University, creator of the SafeWrap. LAPD has figured out a new way to handle excessive force. Sergeant Joseph is heading the charge with this as the LAPD's Arrest and Control Unit Training Division. We've been demonstrating this here in the studio, talking about it, trying to figure out how we can get this implemented completely into LAPD. And, you know, once we get you in here, we want to talk to you about other things that are tied together in some way. We've been hearing a lot about swatting. We've been hearing about what's happened there with the gentleman that was in jail with for George Floyd.
Oh,
people were interested in all this. Yeah. So that, you know, when we talk about these things, these are moments when the police are rushing in. You know what I mean? Like the swatting, which is, some of our listeners may not know what that is. That is like a prank call. They call the police and tell them that something very horrendous is happening at your home, and the police show up. I think the safe wrap could be used in that particular situation if it's not with a weapon, a gun, or something like that.
Yes, as long as it's not a lethal force option. Let me be clear. You run up to any human being, and even a human being with a badge, with a knife or a gun, you're going to be met with someone that wants to go home, whether it be in a badge or not. So we're talking about in a situation where it goes hands-on and we're tussling. We're talking about that piece. That's where I'm an expertise, but I'm not an expertise at being superhuman where I can just kind of, I'm just going to shoot him in the finger. And that's unrealistic. So I want you guys to think of yourself as that badge doesn't make us superhuman. So it doesn't give us special powers. You just pay us to protect yourselves and protect ourselves. So I want you to look at it like that.
Cassandra, you had a quick question for us. Go ahead.
My first question, I'll make it short.
One and only question. Come on with it. What you got?
Okay, the only when you go to the academy, are you trained to shoot to kill? Because there's certain situations that I feel like you could have shot him in the arm or the leg, and I do understand that safe wrap is not for every situation. I do understand that, but I think it's an excellent idea.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Number one, we don't. Let me just outright emphatically, we do not teach to shoot to kill. Period. What we do teach is to stop a threat. And that would be the expectation of you protecting yourself and your loved ones if you were in the same situation. You just want the threat stopped. Now, it could go up. It may end a person's life. But think about the other way. If that bullet hits me, it may end my life. I get stabbed, my life might be in it. So you have to look at it like that. I don't want to kill anybody. That's the last thing I want. But if I'm using lethal force, we got to have the sense to know that could happen.
When people talk about, I think what Cassandra said, we were talking about how you see on television and it gets the most exposure when, everyone is shooting at the suspect and they just unload. Everybody unloads. But we don't see the investigation that goes behind that excessive force.
A good point was brought up on the break. Ariel, thank you. That you got to understand that if you're an officer and you make that decision to every round that you fire is investigated. And the public needs to know that. You don't see that part. You just see the news bit. Maybe you see, and they can't wait for the white cop versus black citizen. The narrative, it just goes nuts. There used to be a time when media and police, they worked together and citizens to bring the facts of the matter before the investigation. You all don't understand how intrusive a police investigation is. This goes all the way up to Inspector General. They come down. You're accounted for every round. And for those, and I understand those scenes, we've seen that years ago. There's constant training and evolution going. Trust that we are constantly training to be better at that. We have teams now. We have something called command and control where we assume roles when it's getting that. So we designate less shooters as needed. We've been training for years to evolve around that. So rest assured that is happening.
Bo, how do you feel over there? You still feeling okay? Anything hurt? Anything aching?
I'm fine. I'm to be completely honest, I kind of wanted to use a knife to see how they get around it because they have the toy knife right here. I kind of wanted to see how they get around that.
No, we're not going that.
Got you.
Just for me, because when they held me down, I got up. I know they wasn't using a full,
You didn't
strength.
need a knife to do that part of it, though. You could just however it was. You didn't need a knife in your hand. We're going to wrap up here in just a bit, though. Look, we've got. How do we get this to be a part of what you do?
Well, this is why we're here. I wanted to have and thank you, Adai, for giving me a format to speak to the community that I love so much, man. I want you all to get behind something like this. If you have a loved one that's suffering from mental illness, if you just have a loved one, period, that's going the wrong way and maybe they were even in the wrong and there's some technique that could help mitigate so they can come home just like I want my fellow officers to come home. Wouldn't that be great? So what you can do is your town hall meetings, show up, say that you want, call the police stations. Hey, I saw this, message our chief. They're aware of it and they're looking at it. And I believe we're going to have positive results, but we got to involve our stakeholders in this investment. And hey, and if you don't, I think it's a good thing.
Well, you're open to them helping you, but how do they also come to you with their questions? If they have, can they get wrapped?
Yes, we'll wrap you up. Well, I don't know if you want to get wrapped by LAPD, but Gracie University. We're here in Torrance, California. All the listeners are welcome to come anytime. We went to Santa Monica. We safe wrapped everyone on Santa Monica Beach. We even gave them $1,000 if they could escape. No one got the cash. No one got hurt. Everyone got handcuffed.
That for Bo.
Everyone got handcuffed, and everyone was happy. And everyone said, we asked them at the end, did you feel any pain? No. And we asked them, if you had to be arrested, you or a loved one in your family, would you rather be held in prone restraint, face in the pavement, hands behind your back, or would you rather be held on your side in safe wrap? They said safe wrap. Every single person that we safe wrapped in Santa Monica, and this video is on YouTube, you can watch it.
Yes.
Every single person that got safe wrapped said they would prefer to be safe wrapped versus held in conventional prone restraint. So there's tactical advantages, right? From a medical monitoring perspective, when someone's face down, if they have a medical emergency in prone restraint, they might turn blue. 6 minutes go by, no one even noticed because you can't see their face. When you hold this person on the side like we did with Bo, we can see his face. We're talking to him visually. Medical urgency is shown on the face. And you can monitor them medically. So when you go to court, even if they have an adverse medical event in safe wrap, when we go to court, what can we say? We can say, hey, we were watching him the whole time. As soon as he went unconscious, we rendered aid as our policy stipulates, and we couldn't bring him back to life, but we tried because we saw it.
Well, I tell you what, we thank you for coming in. You guys being able to demonstrate and show this to us where we can actually know what that is big, big, big. Sergeant Joseph, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And Renner, Gracie, thank you for coming up with the safe wrap. I hope this is something that we can really utilize and put into practice and save lives on both sides of that badge.
Absolutely.
All right?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Family, it's Adai Lamar. You're listening to the Steve Harvey Morning Show right here on Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.